Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Felipe, the president of TeenProLifers. I'm so excited about what we're going to be talking about, and today I'm joined by Megan Kerr, the executive vice president for TeenProLifers. Megan, could you give us the basic rundown of who you are, what you do, some of your background experience within the pro-life movement?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Megan, and I am the executive vice president with TeenProLifers. I've been on the team now for exactly a year now. This is my I'm coming up to my 1 year anniversary in actually just a few days. So I first served with TeenProLifers as the vice president of marketing, and now I am the executive vice president as of um, March of this year. So before that, I was involved with Students for Life and the Susan B. Anthony List as interns, and the Michigan State captain with SFL Action. And I just graduated with my BA in Rhetoric and Public Address at Hillsdale College, and now I am a full-time pro-lifer in Indiana. So that's basically all about me.
Awesome. Well, definitely, you're very involved and you've definitely grown a lot over the years, just jumping from one position to the other. And honestly, I think you've taken every pro-life opportunity that's been given to you. So kudos for that. So today we're going to be talking about some of the recent Indiana rulings. So Megan, can you walk us through, give us the basic overview of what do these rulings mean? What happened in these rulings and what can we expect to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So on Tuesday, August 10th, so this past Tuesday, Judge Sarah Evans Barker made a very big set of rulings. So, and this basically included quite a few big victories for the pro-abortion movement. So that was a big hit to the pro-life movement in Indiana. Those hits included. So that would include the telemedicine ban that prohibits healthcare providers from using telehealth medicine to prescribe abortion drugs. That would also include in-person examination requirements that require physicians to examine a pregnant woman in person before providing abortion medications. A physician-only law allowing only physicians to perform or prescribe a medication abortion. A second trimester hospitalization requirement to restricting second trimester abortions to hospital or surgical centers. Mandatory disclosures of the beginning of life, so the life beginning at fertilization, an in-person counseling requirement for all pre-abortion counseling, and then also various abortion facility requirements. So that being said, that's a lot of a lot to unpack there. So I'll just kind of go through and unpack how that impacts my work in the pro-life movement. So I am the program director at Right to Life Michiana, and I manage a lot of the different programs that we run, and we are basically an activism and outreach and education based organization that serves the South Bend and Elkhart communities. So a lot of that work includes sidewalk counseling and education in South Bend. And in South Bend, we have the Whole Women's Health abortion clinic, and there we do only chemical abortions up to 10 weeks. So that's the only service that Whole Women's Health provides. They don't do any STD testing, any LGBT counseling, anything like that. That's only 10-week, up to 10-week abortions through the abortion pill. So this has been a pretty hard week for us because telehealth was banned in Indiana for abortions because we've been working hard to make sure that women have the advantage of only being able to have an in-person experience with their doctor if they are considering an abortion. We believe that if women feel led to have an abortion, which we don't want them to, we want them to consider all of their options. But if women feel absolutely led to have an abortion, then we at least want them to have a doctor in person. But now they can have a telehealth option. So that being said, I mean, the pro-choice movement is celebrating, but in reality, this is a very, very dangerous thing for women. Because now doctors are not going to be able to provide in-person exams, so they can't see the woman in person. They can't provide comprehensive health exams like they would be able to in their offices. If a woman has an ectopic pregnancy, they're not going to be able to catch that in a telehealth appointment. That woman could potentially die, and that healthcare provider is not going to catch that in a telehealth appointment. There's absolutely no way that that is going to happen. So for a telehealth appointment to be allowed in the state of Indiana, so many women are going to be put in jeopardy. Their lives are going to be put in jeopardy because of that. And this is also going to expand abortion access, and we want women to be able to consider options that are less dangerous. And the abortion pill, we've seen so many thousands of FDA reports filed before they weren't required to be filed to the FDA of women having so many complications. We've seen reports of severe hemorrhaging, severe infections, so many women going through severe pain, and now they're not required to have those reports at the FDA. So now who knows how many women are suffering at the hands of the abortion pill, and we don't even know. So yeah, we don't want that expanded, because is that really what we want women to be going through? Why do we want women to be suffering when we could give them an easier opportunity to go through pregnancy and have better options? So
Absolutely. And, this seems very bizarre to me, and I'm sure it's bizarre to a lot of people. If they're really pro-choice, why are they against, properly informing women of all of the risks that come with abortion? So I'm curious to hear, obviously, this ruling came down from a judge. So can you tell me a little bit about, the background of this judge, maybe what led them to make this ruling?
yeah, absolutely. So, ironically, the judge was appointed by President Reagan back during his terms, and we have had a lot of trouble with Judge Barker in the past. One of her more recent rulings that has affected negatively Right to Life Michiana, particularly, was their 2019 ruling, I believe, with Whole Woman's Health. Whole Woman's Health in South Bend was given a provisionary license to operate, but this was a court-ordered license. This was not given by the State Department of Health. They were not allowed to operate with a Department of Health license from the state of Indiana. So they appealed by suing the state, and then they were given a license by the court provisionally. And so now they are operating in the state of Indiana in South Bend, but they are not undergoing any inspections. They're not being treated as any other abortion clinic would that is operating with a Department of Health license. So they're operating as if they have a license, but then they're able to get away with basically whatever they want, because they're not undergoing any routine inspections. So that's pretty outrageous, if you ask me. So we're educating our community and letting them know about that. But then, so Judge Barker is notorious in our state for being an activist judge, legislating from the bench. And we realize that we're never going to get anywhere with her. The pro-choice and pro-abortion movements love her. Whole Woman's Health and Planned Parenthood, All Options, the Lawyering Project, they all love her. we are not great friends with her at all. So we are now, our next step with these set of rulings, because we're not giving up with this, because she is choosing to legislate from the bench, we can't really push anything policy-wise. So our next step is to appeal those rulings. And so what our Attorney General has now done is file an emergency stay with the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. And so that is hopefully going to put a stop to that set of injunctions. And then we will hopefully have those all appealed, or as many of them as possible, because this is just catastrophic for not only our Michiana community, but the whole state and all of those women who are going to keep suffering at the hands of the abortion industry, and the preborn children who are going to continue dying, not just the number of children who are already dying, but now just exponentially more.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. This is outrageous, and essentially they're being given special treatment just for being an abortion facility. And I really don't think you're going to find any other medical facility within the state of Indiana that gets through as many hoops and cracks in the legal system as the abortion industry. And Megan, my question to you is, how is this even possible that they are basically being given the special treatment? They don't have to follow the law. They don't have to take care of women. Why are they doing this, and how are they doing this?
Well, it's basically they're being given special treatment by people like Judge Barker. People are not educated. Even the Solicitor General was in shock by how catastrophic these rulings actually were when some of our lobbyists sat down and explained to them what the ramifications were of the rulings that Judge Barker actually made. So once we explained it to them, they were like, "Oh, I didn't realize that." And when we sit down and explain it to some of these people, they don't even realize. People even in our community don't even realize that our abortion clinic in South Bend is technically operating without a legitimate license. So people are just not educated. And so what we're doing is we are trying to let them know and help them be aware, because if people don't even know what is going on, and how are they supposed to know any better? And how it's like if you went to your local doctor's office, and they were just writing you prescriptions and they didn't have a legitimate license. Would you feel safe with that? I mean, that's basically preposterous. So why should an abortion clinic be treated any different? So you have to wonder, are there any suspect motives? Is there a hidden agenda? And obviously the answer is yes. The abortion industry is being given special treatment left and right, and you see it every day. It's all about the money, and that's exactly what these rulings are. It's all about trying to get the money from women and trying to take advantage of women, because the abortion industry is trying to parade around and say, "Oh, this expansion is good for women." When you sit down and look at these rulings and these injunctions, they're not good for women. When you look at the facility requirements, they have changed through these rulings. Those requirements are there for a reason. Those facility requirements, those are health codes to make those healthcare facilities safe for women. And those, it comes down to like where sinks are placed, how wide hallways are so stretchers can get through if a woman hemorrhages. So would you feel safe if there was a narrow hallway in an abortion clinic because a clinic was too lazy and was trying to cut corners? No, that would be insane. You wouldn't want a doctor's office to have narrow hallways in case a blood draw went crazy. And so you wouldn't want an abortion clinic, a very delicate procedure, to be any different. So the abortion industry is absolutely 100% getting special treatment, and it's insane. It's completely wrong.
Absolutely, and I think it sounds like the abortion industry in Indiana is completely out of control. And I think it's important to mention that I believe it was last year there was a Supreme Court case. It was, I believe, Russo versus a different state, and basically they took this up in court as well, where the abortion facility was saying, no, we don't need to follow the same medical requirements as other health facilities. And I'm glad that you brought up the fact that gurneys can't fit through narrow hallways. And as we've seen in a lot of cases, women will bleed out to death if the paramedics can't get access to the women. So I mean, these are common sense restrictions. It's not so much as, we're going to shut you down. We're just saying if abortion is going to be legal in some of these states, then don't let the women flop and die on the table, right? It should be common sense. And I think it's, if the abortion industry truly, truly cared about women, they would follow these basic health codes. And the fact that they're having to fight this in court and say, no, we're not going to make our halls bigger, we're not going to follow medical regulations, I think that's concerning. And it really reveals the true agenda of the abortion industry, and it's just to profit off of women. So Megan, my question to you is, we're going to have a lot of, and we've had a lot of pro-abortion advocates that have defended not having bigger hallways. They've defended not having basic medical codes which keep women safe, right? So what is your response to these people, and why are they against it?
So I would just ask one question. If you're going to keep saying you're pro-woman and pro-choice is pro-women, when are you going to start acting like it? When are you going to have health codes that are pro-woman? When are you going to have standards that are good for women? And you're just not seeing that. You're going to keep passing legislation that try to cut corners. You're going to keep ruling against common sense laws that keep women safe. And so when are you going to start acting like you actually care about women? So they keep attacking these common sense laws and saying, oh, the pro-lifers are trying to tell you what to do with your body. They're trying to restrict your access to health care. Well, that maybe we are trying to restrict abortion access, but we're also trying to make sure that women are not harmed by dangerous medical facilities. And I'm saying medical facilities. But we're seeing here that the abortion industry does not have women's best interests in mind. If they did, then they would start actually caring about women and wanting to give them the best care possible. And we're not seeing that. So, I mean, if they want to actually start convincing the pro-life movement that they actually care, they will start talking about the abortion pill reversal if they want to. If they want to start telling people that, yeah, life begins at fertilization and you have other options, then yeah, we want to give women all of the options. We want to give women a choice. A lot of the pro-abortion people, they don't act like that, and that's why they get the title pro-abortion. Some pro-choicers I've encountered, they're not all bad people, and some pro-lifers, they're the first ones to admit that yeah, pro-choicers they're rational people, and they seem like they can get along with us. But a lot of the abortion industry, the people who are at the front of the pack, like the leadership of Planned Parenthood, they are out for your money. They are not out for your best interests, and those are the people we're trying to protect women and children from, because they are out for the most vulnerable. And we see that in the African American communities. We see those people out in the poorer communities, and they're preying upon women. They're preying upon students. They're preying upon rape victims. And it's evil. It's vile. It's disgusting. And you see those videos of sex trafficked people who are getting abortions, and they are trying to do quiet under the table deals, and it's disgusting. It's awful. So that is what we are fighting against, truly. That we're trying to prevent. And we are trying to pass common sense laws and enforce them so we can protect women and children from the evils of abortion.
Right, and absolutely, and I agree with you. Not all pro-choice people are this monster. They're really not. And I've met a lot of staff at NARAL who are truly, they have good intentions, in my opinion, but they're just misled. And they, I think this is the same with any type of conflict or any type of war. Both sides are going to think they're the ones that are justified. It doesn't matter. We might see the other side as evil, as incredibly misled, but the same can apply. They hold the belief that they are doing justice, that they are doing the right thing. And we can look at World War II. Obviously, ethics and morals show that the Allied power was on the right side of history. We were fighting for human rights. But at the same time, you had the Axis powers, you had the Nazis who thought that they were the ones that were on the right side of history. And I think this concept applies to now. And, regardless of whether this side or that side thinks that they are morally justified, at the end of the day, morals and ethics is the same, right? There is good and there is bad. And I agree. I mean, I've had a lot of discussions with pro-abort advocates who have said, "Oh, you're just trying to take the choice away from women by enacting these so-called trap laws." And you can call them that, but the reality is they're basic common sense legislation. We're saying, if you're going to have abortion be legal in your state, then you should make sure that the women you're operating on aren't dying. And I've heard a lot of people who have told me, "Oh, women don't die from legal abortions." They say, "Oh, getting an abortion is safer than getting a tonsil removed," right? And I think that is absolutely laughable. And there are so many cases in which women die from legal abortions. So for the pro-abortion movement to just, quietly acknowledge that and try to slide it under the table or under the carpet, I think that's completely inappropriate. And we need to, as a society, recognize that, yes, women are truly, truly dying from legal abortions. And, one of the abortion facilities here in Las Vegas, Nevada, they perforated the woman's uterus. This is very, very common, in which the abortionist who, doesn't know what they're doing or just doesn't care, they make careless mistakes, and they end up making an error, and the woman dies. So medical malpractice, we have to acknowledge that it happens. So I think it's so important that we're passing these common sense bills. And Megan, my question would be, why why are judges so stuck on being activists, if that makes sense? Their role is the judiciary. Their role is not to legislate, not to say, well, I think this is what it should be, right? Their job is to follow the Constitution and to uphold or overturn basic common laws. So my question to you, Megan, would be, can we expect to see more of these common sense bills passed in other states? And obviously, Indiana is very pro-life, so it was shocking to see that it was reversed. So my question is, do you think it's possible to still continue enacting these common sense bills in other states?
I think that, so to address your first question, will we see more from activist judges? I think that this is the era of activist judges, unfortunately. I think that that ruling fairly and per the Constitution is probably a thing of the past, or at least it will be for a little while, and it's very sad. And I could go on a long and drawn out tangent about disrespect for the Constitution, but I will not get into that. I don't think our audience needs a history lesson. But to address the rest of your questions, yes, Indiana is historically known as being a very pro-life state, one of the most pro-life states in the nation. So this is very, very startling and very shocking. And the only reason why it might not be considered one of the most pro-life states now is because of this activist judge. It's nothing that we have done. It's nothing that the pro-abortion movement has really done. It's something beyond our control. It's something a force that was not meant to be there. So it was completely outside of our design, and it's very unfortunate, really. I think that one of the great things about our legal system is we have an appeal process, and I'm hoping that we can get this ruling overturned, so we can get this set of injunctions, or as many as possible, repealed, because it's just outrageous. And we want to protect the women and children of our state, because they just deserve much better than this ruling, and it's quite awful for their health and safety. And so I guess the bottom line with this is, women and children deserve better. The pro-abortion movement, the abortion industry, organizations like Whole Women's Health, All Options, Planned Parenthood, they don't have their best interests in mind. And I think that if you're going to say that you are pro-choice, if you're going to be pro-women, you need to be in support of this common sense legislation. Even if you're somebody who supports abortion, you need to support women having all of the options. You can't just say that you are pro-woman, pro-choice, and only be for abortion. If you are pro-choice and pro-woman, you need to be for all of the options, or you are not pro-choice, you are only pro-abortion.
Absolutely. And again, I just find it so laughable that they use a euphemism, pro-choice, right? They support choice. And I consider myself pro-choice. I don't support abortion. We support options, right? Options that actually help women, options that actually support both lives. So I think we've reached an incredibly new low in which we have pro-abortion supporters literally refusing to, support basic laws that help women who are undergoing an abortion. And, we often hear back alley abortions, how unsafe they were. Now we're in, 2021, and we're still fighting over basic legislation that protects the woman getting an abortion, right? So it's not like we're saying we're going to close you down if you don't follow this. We are saying, actually, but we're also saying you need to follow this legislation. And right. For them to just say, no, we're not going to protect our clients. I mean, it's their clients. They're not protecting, pro-life women, pro-life men. They're literally protecting their own clients, right? Mm-hmm. So it's very shocking, very concerning to me as a person, as an adolescent, that we're progressing to this dystopia in which we have literal abortion supporters saying, no, abortion providers are above the law. These facilities don't need to follow basic laws. And, we're going to have people that argue that the Constitution says this thing or that thing. The truth is, the Constitution says that everyone has a right to life. That includes the woman getting an abortion. So again, why is the pro-abortion movement fighting this? So my question to you, Megan, would be, obviously you're the program manager for Michiana Right to Life. What are some ways in which, general everyday pro-life advocates can get involved? What can they do to help change the judiciary? What can they do to help get pro-life people elected? What are some of those ways to achieve that?
So within Right to Life Michiana, we have a few different programs that I am very proud of. One of them is our sidewalk counseling program. So we have several volunteers who are trained with our partner organization, Sidewalk Advocates for Life. They are trained through them, and then they go out and counsel to women, provide them with resources, encouragement, prayer, and they just give them support and love and tell them that they are not alone in this, and they help get them over to the local pregnancy resource center. And for us, that is Women's Care Center in South Bend. And actually, it's right across from our office. It's very, very close by. So, and then there's also one right across from the Whole Women's Health, literally right across the street. So it's great. They have several locations right near us. Right across the street. It's so ironic. There's a women's care center where they can get free ultrasounds, free resources, free all sorts of things. And then over at Whole Women's Health, they have to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get an ultrasound and then the abortion pill. So they could be saving a lot of money and be having so much less regret, I think. So that's one avenue that they could do. They could be reaching out to women who are in crisis pregnancy situations. So then also we have a program called our door-to-door street team, in which we go out into the Michiana community and we knock on doors and we let people know that our abortion facility is unlicensed, and we give people resources through our literature and let them know that we have a program in our community called Her Michiana. And we actually have over 200 free and low-cost resources available to women and children, not just pregnant women and not just preborn children, but women who are in need of post-abortive counseling, who are struggling to feed themselves and their children, if they need food, shelter, clothing, if they need, if they have postpartum depression, anything like that. Any stage of life they're in, they can go and get the help that they need. And like I said, free and low cost. So we have that available to them, and we just want to let everybody in the community know that that's available. So then we also have volunteer opportunities in the office. So I realized that in our all right to life opportunities and chapters, that you don't have all of those resources available. So there are different opportunities in various right to life organizations near you. So all you have to do is go to your nearest right to life office and see how you can get involved. There are a lot of different sidewalk advocates for life locations that you can get involved with. There's definitely a lot of different abortion clinics. So all you need to do is find the nearest one to you and go out and pray for the abortion, the people who are considering abortions and the preborn children who might not make it out of that clinic that day. So those are the ways that I would recommend getting involved.
Absolutely. And that's the amazing thing about being in the pro-life movement. It's so diverse. There are so many ways to help. If policy isn't your thing, education. If education isn't your thing, you can try a different, maybe something that hasn't been invented. So I really, really have a lot of hope for the pro-life movement. I think we're on the right side of history, and I think we're going to win. And, ultimately this is a battle between light and dark, right? So we need to be persistent. It sounds like, Megan, she is doing so much right now. She's helping with TeenProLifers. She's the program director for Michiana Right to Life. So the possibilities are endless. And I wanted to quickly shift over to some of the biggest Supreme Court case coming up, which is being litigated they're going to have oral arguments in the fall, and they say that this is the big one. It could really reverse Roe v. Wade. So my question to you, Megan, and there's this common stereotype or misconception that is associated with reversing Roe v. Wade, in which everyone says, "Oh, we're going to go back to a dystopia. We're going to go back in time. It's a step back for humanity." What does reversing Roe v. Wade mean? Does it mean abortion is going to be illegal in the United States? How does this work?
So basically what the Roe v. Wade decision has done in 1973, effective in 1973, is legalize abortion up to 9 months at the federal level. Before Roe v. Wade was enacted, abortion was decided at the state level. So abortion was varied individually at every state. So Indiana could have a set of abortion laws, while Illinois could have a set of completely different abortion laws. And we're kind of seeing that a little bit with various sets of legislation, but then we're seeing those bills get blocked because of several precedent cases, like Roe v. Wade, Casey v. Planned Parenthood, things like that. So, yeah, I think that because we're now looking at overturning Roe v. Wade, it's quite. I think any real person who is looking at this from an unbiased point of view, whether you're pro-life, pro-choice, or you don't even know, I think it's reasonable because, and here's why. I think that Roe v. Wade is a very extreme decision. It was decided by white men, all white men who decided what to do with a woman's body from a federal level. So I think that if women are so concerned that men are telling people what to do with their body, they should be against Roe v. Wade, first off. And so from that point of view, and then another point of view is a majority of Americans are against abortion up to 9 months. They don't think it should be legalized up to 9 months. So a majority of Americans, therefore, should be against Roe v. Wade and that decision. So if a majority of Americans don't think that abortion should be legal through all 9 months, even if you're pro-choice up to viability, for example, then you should not be in support of Roe v. Wade, and you should be in support of each state being able to set its own restrictions. So I think that this is a great opportunity to give the decision back to the states and letting states decide for themselves what is appropriate for them.
Absolutely, and I think you cover that beautifully. I mean, again, there's that stigma that abortion is going to be illegal everywhere across the United States. For us pro-lifers, we wish it was illegal everywhere, but we need to work step by step by step. And I think, honestly, you make an excellent point. Reversing Roe v. Wade isn't this boogie monster that everyone makes it out to be. It just means every state is going to have that democratic process. If states like California and New York, they're going to keep abortion. States like Indiana, more pro-life states, they're going to vote to make abortion illegal in their states. And that's the way it should be. It's the way that everything, common sense, especially like, for example, whether it be like marijuana or whether it be like recreational drug use, right? That's decided by states. There's no case that says, it's legal everywhere, right? So essentially what those 7 men in Roe v. Wade did was they said, okay, we're going to impose our personal belief of the Constitution, and we're going to legalize abortion everywhere, regardless of whether your state is pro-life, whether it's pro-abortion. We're going to impose our personal opinion. So, and I think it's important to note as well that over the last several decades since Roe v. Wade, we've, slowly but surely progressed to a more pro-life society. Back then, the only major opponent to abortion was the Catholic Church. And over time, and this gives me hope, we've gotten so many different denominations, religions, and now we even have atheist pro-life advocates that are saying, you know what? Science says that human life begins at conception. Therefore, if life is present at conception, it should be protected from the womb to the tomb. And I think that's a reality. So we've been fighting this legal battle of abortion for the last 40-something years. And I think we're getting there to the point where Roe might be reversed as early as next year. And I really do think it's going to be reversed. So, Megan, can you talk a little bit about, what the case means? Can Roe v. Wade be reversed? And is it likely? Obviously, with the new justices, can you just kind of touch on what that means? What can we expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So from my contacts, I'm hearing that Dobbs is there is a very strong sense that it will we're not sure how much of Roe will be overturned and will be reversed, but we are thinking that we will have at least some victory, if not a complete victory. We're coming up on the 50th anniversary of Roe in 2023, and I, for one, would love to see it not reach its 50th birthday, its 50th anniversary. So I think that it is very likely that we will have some victory, and we have a pretty strong set of justices and in the Supreme Court right now who abide by the Constitution and are very firm in their belief that Roe is not constitutional, and they have a lot of basis to cite that. So I'm very hopeful in this case, in the Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health. I think that this is going to be a very interesting event in our history. Definitely one for the history books. I think that this could be a potentially very big win for the pro-life movement, something that we've been waiting for almost 50 years now, and definitely something that has needed to happen. Roe v. Wade was never meant to happen, and it's been in existence for 48 years too long.
Right, absolutely. And, it's so interesting because we look back in history, whether it was, the civil rights movement, whether it was World War II, or even when the United States had slaves. And a lot of people have this idea that just because something is legal means it's moral. And the Supreme Court screws up. They don't like to admit it, but they do mess up sometimes. We've seen it countless times when slavery was legal in this country, when the Japanese during World War II were sent to internment camps simply for being Japanese. So, the Supreme Court upheld that case. And it truly, I can't emphasize this enough. The Supreme Court is not always right. And this is what people need to understand before they jump to a conclusion of, oh, just because abortion is legal, it means it must be, ethical. It must mean that human life doesn't begin at conception. They're really not scientists. They are not the supreme being. So they just interpret the Constitution, and sometimes they interpret it incorrectly. So that's essentially what Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Center is seeking to do. It's seeking to repair that damage that has been done, to fix, nearly 50 years of incorrect precedent. And I just want to mention that there are so many pro-choice scholars, legal scholars, who have even said that Roe v. Wade is a really, really it was wrongly decided, and they think that the case is really weak. And I just want to mention that over the past 50 years, nearly I would say over 65 million unborn babies have been lost to abortion. So I think it's time that we progress to a society that actually values life.
Right.
And I think, and Megan, I'm curious on getting your thoughts on this, but personally, I think when we look back on abortion in 50 years, we're going to say, oh my goodness, how was abortion legal? We were killing our own species. So Megan, I'm curious, what do you think is going to happen in the future? Do you think we'll see a pro-life society?
I think that with the right execution of a post-Roe world, that we could see a potentially very pro-life society. I have a lot of hope in the post-Roe world, and what I mean by a properly executed post-Roe plan is that we provide proper education of materials for women and resources for women, not just leaving them stranded without a proper access to abortion, and just saying, okay, well, we've taken away abortion access. Sorry, you're just left out to dry. You're going to have to revert back to back alley abortions. No, absolutely. We don't want them to feel like that. We want them to feel like they have other resources, and that this care is going to be better, and that with the right counseling, with the right therapy, with the right support groups, and the right doctors, the right treatment plans, this is going to be healthier, this is going to be better for them, because abortion is not good for women or their preborn babies. Obviously, a life is being taken, and abortions. We've seen so many reports of botched abortions, either taking the woman's life or very, very badly damaging the woman, psychologically, physically, or emotionally. So, yeah, I think that a post-Roe world could be very, very bright, very hopeful, and what I don't want to see is, like I said earlier, women feeling like they're left with no hope, that they either have to revert back to back alley abortions, coat hanger abortions, illegal abortions, or they commit suicide. Earlier, a couple weeks ago, I talked to a woman whose friend was a rape victim, and her family forced her to keep her child. And she the woman who was talking to me about her friend, she was personally pro-life, but she felt so bad for her friend, because she committed suicide, and she didn't know how to handle that, because that's just a tragic situation, and we don't want women to feel like they have nowhere to turn. And that woman probably did not have the best resources, the best care, and the best counseling, and the right therapy. So we want a post-Roe world to include proper care and proper healing for those women, because they deserve better than to sit and have to wallow in that hurt and that misery. And I've known several people who have had to deal with that. I've known sexual assault survivors who've had to deal with the aftermath. And that, frankly, that is just, nobody should have to deal with that. And I'm hoping that pro-lifers will have the right heart and mindset to be able to execute a post-Roe world. And that's going to take a lot of planning, thought, and prayer.
Absolutely. And my question, Megan, is, in the grand scheme of things, how important is this Indiana ruling? And is it a minor setback? Is it a major setback? And, what do you think is going to happen in the next few months with that case? Is it possible to appeal this decision? Obviously, this was just a federal decision, but do you think it could be, upgraded to the Supreme Court?
So yeah, that's a lot of questions. So I'll go through everything one by one. And Felipe, feel free to repeat your questions if I miss anything, because I want to make sure to address them all. So in the grand scheme of things, is this an important ruling? And is this potentially a big deal? I think that it is a big deal. It's definitely not something to understate. Although I'm not losing hope personally, as somebody who works in the pro-life movement in Indiana. I am not going to start panicking and start getting depressed over this ruling and losing sleep. I realize that now more than ever, pro-lifers need to step up to the plate and meet challenges like this head on. We need to educate, and we need to be even more aggressive with our outreach. Not aggressive as in like attacking people, but like we need to be more on the offense. We need to start working harder and working smarter and reaching more people, because that's educating and doing more outreach. That's what's going to change hearts and minds, and changing the culture is what is going to fight rulings like this the most. So I think that is where that's where Right to Life Michiana and our mission is so vital, so important. So So in terms of appealing this decision, yes, and that appeal process has already started. The Attorney General, who has been a very big ally to life in the pro-life movement, ever since he started his term, he's been wonderful. He has already filed an emergency stay, and basically what that means is he has filed um, um, a measure that would appeal to the Seventh Circuit Court and say, "Hey, we need to halt this set of injunctions, and we need to start the appeal process, and this needs to happen right now. This needs to start. It's an emergency because women's health and their lives and preborn lives are at risk." So that appeal process started, and that was filed as of Wednesday night, this past Wednesday night. So if the Seventh Circuit does not want to hear it, then our next step is to go to the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court does not want to hear it, then we're not really sure what happens next. We might be waiting on the Dobbs case. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. And so it's going to be a little bit of a waiting game. The emergency stay process, it could be granted as early as 1 month, but it can also take as long as 6 months or even longer. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. But the set of injunctions takes into effect right now. So all of the telehealth appointments can start right now. The surgical abortions outside of hospitals and surgical centers can happen right now. And doctors don't have to disclose when life begins anymore before a woman has an abortion. Facility requirements, those all stop now. So this is a very sad thing for the pro-life movement and for the health and safety of women. I know I'm kind of being a broken record here, but if you are pro-choice, you need to really, really think hard about where you stand with this ruling. Because if you are really on the side of women and women's health, you will look at these articles and all of what was ruled in favor and struck down, and you will see that what was struck down, this is not pro-women. I know that a lot of pro-abortion people will say, no, pro-lifers are just always on the wrong side of history. They're always wrong. They're always just trying to take away your choices. But I'm telling you, when you look at the hard facts and you look at what the laws and rulings say for yourself, this is not pro-women. I, as a woman who wants to have a family someday, would not feel comfortable with these sets of laws in medical facilities. I would, if my friend wanted to consider having an abortion and was dead set on it and I could not change her mind, I would not want her to be getting an abortion under these circumstances. That would just break my heart. I'm honestly, sometimes I look at these lists and I'm speechless. It's awful. This is the abortion industry for you, though. They want to profit off of women. They want to prey on women, and they want to parade around and pretend that they are on the side of women when you look at what is going on, they are not. So, Felipe, did I miss anything?
No, I think you answered that. You answered all of the questions that I had, and you're absolutely right. The moral of the story, or what we're fighting for, is common sense legislation. And I know I've repeated that over and over again, but I can't emphasize that enough. This is common sense. Whether you're pro-life or pro-abortion, you don't have a reason not to support saving women who are getting illegal abortion. So, I appreciate you taking the time to chat today, Megan. You're doing a lot of amazing work, and we'll definitely see where that Indiana case goes. But thank you so much, Megan Kerr, the Executive Vice President for TeenProLifers.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.